Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, coming to you today with a little bit of morning motivation, a little bit of morning wisdom. Call it what you will, call it what you want, doesn't really bother me. But it's around state management, all right? What is state management, and how do we use state management to take control of our emotional states in any moment? So what state management is the conscious ability to control your emotional states. Now, to be able to do this, okay, we have to first disassociate ourselves from these emotional feelings. So if I feel angry, okay, I'm not feeling angry, I'm experiencing anger. So by using shifts in our language on how we describe or identify with situations or environments or conversations, whatever it may be. Okay, for example, if someone says something that triggers you, I am not getting triggered, I don't get triggered. Okay, I am experiencing conversation that is triggering emotional shifts. Okay, by disassociating that, we go from being the subject in the narrative to having more of an objective view of the narrative, to where we're a third person watching over it. So what we're able to do is, if I am the subject, I have to change me to change the situation or environment. If I am objectively looking at it from the outside, okay, I can see what factors need to change for that environment to change. So for example, if I'm in a disempowered state, so if I'm low energy, if I'm down, if I'm, low confidence, okay, and I'm in this state of being, um, feeling low, feeling miserable, feeling lonely, feeling lost, feeling lack, whatever it may be, feeling self-doubt, feeling, unconfident or low confidence in myself, okay? It's not that I am feeling that, it's that I'm experiencing it. So if I have low self-confidence, okay, I don't have low self-confidence, but I'm experiencing a moment where my confidence has waned. So being able to disassociate ourselves and detach ourselves from the situation allows us to, one, regain control of it, because we're no longer in the middle of it, if that makes sense. So what state management is state management is being able to control your emotional state to where it's one where you can choose, because we don't want to be on the highs of, happy as can be, and then low as can be, and then happy as can be, and then low as can be. Because two major things. First is, it requires a lot of energy for us to shift states. Okay, because you've got to think, okay, how our brain works is when it's releasing these chemicals. If I'm releasing massive amounts of serotonin to be happy, okay, and I'm in this euphoric, happy state, okay, and then all of a sudden something goes against me, and now I'm releasing massive amounts of cortisol and other stress hormones, okay, and now I'm down in the dumps. That chemical shift, what has to happen? Well, first, our body is releasing a massive amount of serotonin to get us happy, and then it's having to then rechange that and shift and dump out a lot of cortisol and other stress hormones. Okay, and then what happens is, to get back out of that stress state, or that, disempowered state, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is for you, okay, then it has to flush the system, and then it has to release more chemicals. Do you sort of see how we're having to create all these different chemicals, okay, to be able to, one, flood the system, then two, flush the system, then reflood the system, then flush the system, then reflood the system again. So what we want to do is, we want to understand, how do we, one, identify when we're in it, when we're shifting into a state that we don't want to be in. So for example, okay, disassociation is the easiest way to be able to identify it, because if I start feeling down or I start feeling stressed, Well, if I know that there's nothing really to worry about in life, because I'll put it to you like this, it's all about perspective, state management, okay? Pure perspective. So if I feel like I've lost, let's say the love of my life has broken up with me. I thought I was going to marry him and I was going to be with him for the rest of my life. Okay, so one thing to remember is, well, it's not the end of the world, because there's a million other people in the world, or billions or millions or what have you. But the other thing is, worst case scenario in life is death. But on the flip side, the best case in that scenario, if you die, well, job done, life's over, all good. You don't have to worry about it. Like, it's not like you're going to be sitting around thinking, oh, gee, why did that happen to me? Bloody hell, this, that, and the other. Do you get it? Like, the worst case scenario is death, but in the moment of death, we lose the conscious awareness that we were ever alive. So, it's sort of like, you're playing a video game and then the power cuts out and everything shuts down. Job done. You don't have to worry. There's no power. Do you sort of get it? Like there's no change. We don't get the option to come back and redo it over. So what's there to worry about? If you die, you die. Job done. So when you have that perspective shift, okay, well, if I'm in business or I'm in sales and things are going against me and I'm not getting the sales that I need to get, or I'm not hitting the targets, or people aren't responding the way I want them to respond, well, just remember that worst case scenario is death. So anything other than death isn't really the worst thing that could happen. Now, granted, there are a million things that can happen in life that are worse than death, being kept alive in torture, different things like that, having a very slow and painful death, like being stuck in the wilderness and dying of dehydration, dying of starvation, dying of poisoning, where it's a long, slow process. For me personally, the most scariest form of death is being given a terminal illness, to where that one day soon it's going to happen, and it's a countdown, a clock ticking down, because that's when we get into the psychological game. So opposed to those things happening, all right, it's not really that big of a deal. And even if you were in one of those situations, well, you're in that situation, you don't get to come out of it. Like, job done, like nothing to worry about. Like, worry and stress only ever come from the thoughts of, I could have done this, I could have changed this. So just accept that everything that has happened and everything that is happening is happening. It's not that it's happening to you, it's just happening and you're experiencing it, okay? And when we understand that, and when we get that detachment, now the other thing is to lose the fear of death. Okay, the reason we fear death is because we're attached to our identity of who we believe we are. This ego of me, even though that ego doesn't exist because it's a psychological construct in our head. Do you sort of get it? It's not real. Like, me as Justin doesn't exist. I only exist, my identity of self, because the collective has agreed upon that is how I am portrayed. So, for example, we don't see ants and think there's Bill, there's Bob, there's thing. We just see them and we just see ants. What type of ants? Because we don't identify them as being individual consciousnesses, even though they do have the ability to consciously think for themselves, though they forego that because for their societal evolution and their colony, it is better that they forego conscious individuality and they more act as a collective. So when we lose the attachment to my name needs to live on, my identity needs to live on, well then we're alive, we're dead. Job done. Life's good. All right, I hope you enjoy.